Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Phil Goodhart. How are you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing great, Roderick. Very pleased to be on your show.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you coming on, and we do understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So let's jump into things, Phil. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure thing. Well, I'm one of those folks who's never really figured out what he wants to do when he grows up. So I'll try to give you a little bit of an idea of how I've ended up landing where I am. I like things analytical, but having said that, I also really appreciate things that are visual and graphic. I've always enjoyed architecture. When I was in college, I decided that economics was a good area that allowed me to kind of focus on social concerns as well as sort of quantitative. So I did that, was successful, and then I had to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up. And as I said, I never have figured that out. So I started by doing consulting work for Arthur Anderson and Company back when they were still a going concern. They had a big business in helping their clients build software to help them run the different aspects of their business, general ledger, operations, inventory control. So I did that for 2 or 3 years. I really enjoyed it, actually, particularly kind of the project management piece of it. But I just kind of felt that that wasn't the kind of firm I wanted to continue working for on a long-term basis. So I left Arthur Anderson, used that opportunity to go back to business school, where oddly enough, among groups of people who are mostly interested in doing deals and private equity, investment management, consulting, I fell in love with marketing. Go
Okay.
figure. And uh, and from there, I was recruited to. This ended up being really fortuitous. I was recruited by a company called MBI. Its best known operating division is the Danbury Mint. And back
Okay.
in the 80s and 90s, the Danbury Mint was among a number of companies that sell what I call mass merchandise collectibles. And pre-internet, people were really into collecting things because you couldn't collect digital pictures and experiences and whatnot. So people would collect Christmas ornaments, plates, porcelain dolls, die-cast replicas, you name it. And I spent 20 years there, and the way we reached our clients was primarily through print advertising, because that's the way it was done back then. There was no internet. Um, so I really fell in love with sort of the combination of the aesthetic and the analytical, because part of it was trying to figure out how to come up with really evocative messaging and beautiful graphics. But then the other piece of it was trying to figure out who to mail these pieces to, the people who were going to be most likely to be interested in the products we were selling. So fast forward 20 years, decided I'd sort of had enough in that environment, and since then have embarked on a long journey of bouncing back and forth between corporate positions and independent consulting work.
Mm-hmm.
And all throughout, I've really enjoyed the objective of trying to engage with potential clients for service providers, retail customers. I've just continued to always find that to be really interesting. And mostly doing, corporate positions like VPs of marketing and such until uh, later years, I ended up working for a small advertising firm. And I was helping them do database marketing, working with trying to figure out how to create systems that would allow them to better understand their buyers and their inquirers and things like that. And and then from there, I moved on to, I'm not quite sure I ended up doing this, but helping clients run their Google Ads accounts. So kind of moved full, made the jump from having done, print for most of my career to basically doing nothing but digital. And from there, I have continued to sort of follow that path, though my journey has taken me now more toward focusing on nonprofit organizations where I can focus my attentions and apply my skills to some extent trying to give back.
Now,
So that's
with your experience in the print marketing world,
mm,
share with us what was the best advertisement in your mind that you put together, because part of my experience is I work for the Yellow Pages, so I know about a little bit of that, what you're speaking of. Tell us a little bit about the one you felt went the best, based off finding the correct graphics and finding the best target clients.
well, that's an interesting question. Certainly, the one that gave me the most runway for trying to kind of push the envelope was a collectible subscription program that pulled together the state quarters that the U.S. Mint began issuing many years ago, and they really captured the imagination of people because everyone had been accustomed to the classic George Washington quarter. But what these coins did was they incorporated motifs specific to each of the 50 states. And that then becomes a very collectible kind of product. So we had a program where you would get these panels that had the coins encapsulated along with pictures and history and things of that nature.
That's great.
And it was really unbelievably successful. And in terms of, getting back to your specific question about opportunities to really kind of expand, explore, well, you could focus some of your marketing on specific states regarding their specific, the topic of the coins. The graphics there was any number of things we could do. And what really became integral to the success of that program was just testing lots and lots of different kinds of creatives, whether they were um, on magazine ads, direct mail brochures, postcards, pieces of mail that would fold, small, large, very lavish photographs, very simple photographs, things that replicated newspaper headlines. I mean, I could go on, but I won't. And I'll never forget one day I was kind of running a seminar uh,
Mm-hmm.
for kind of other members of my organization. And I took all the different pieces that we had been running and testing, and I pinned them up around the wall. And there must have been 30 of them. And, they don't all work, and some work better than others.
Mm-hmm.
But that really kind of gets you thinking about the whole importance of testing because we all have intuition and we have ideas, but until you actually test them and you have the data, you don't know what you got.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. I'm gonna ask this question, Phil. Now that advertisement of the product with the coins,
Yeah.
was that in the 90s? Because my mom had this panel that opened up like this, and then we were finding those quarters from everywhere,
Yeah.
and we fill that thing up. Was that in the 90s, Phil?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely. I can't
Man,
remember when it first started, but it went they released them. Oh gosh. I think they were releasing them on, I don't know, maybe I don't want to say four. I feel like the thing went on for 10 years.
okay, okay.
So there was new
Because I had that.
news. Yeah, so there was new news all the time. And
Yes, yes.
we provided the easy way to collect. We did
Okay.
everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
Many people would buy, I think what you're referring to is empty portfolios where when you found the coins, you'd push them in and
Yes.
collect them yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly it. That's so interesting that you had an influence on my life, not just now, but even back then. Phil, check
Yeah,
that out.
go
That's awesome.
figure, man.
With all of your experiences, at some time or another, you made the decision that you were going to go all in on your business.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing with us what was that to make you say, okay, now I'm going to go all in to try to help these nonprofits, and share with us the name of the business?
Absolutely. I have had an LLC now for almost 20 years, and I called it my initials are PMG, so I called it PMG Solutions. I don't think I had thought about this at the time, but over the years, what I've done is I've used doing business as PMG solutions where I would fill in the blank before solutions. So my current
Hmm.
iteration is PMG marketing solutions.
Okay.
If it were you, your biz, it could be PMB payment solutions. So it's worked well.
Yes.
In any event, my most recent experience where honestly I thought I was going to hang out where I was working for a small ad firm. And I was doing a little bit of everything, but it was mostly helping clients with their Google Ads accounts. But as often happens, the tides turn, and what I thought was going to kind of be my final chapter ended up not being. So that was the impetus. But the real question then was, all right, what do I do now? How do I reinvent myself yet again to do something different? And, entrepreneurs go through this all the time. And, so I'm trying to do some, reflection and, try to figure out what do I like doing, and what am I good at? And it was interesting because I realized I'd probably spent 15, 20 years serving nonprofit organizations, Rotary clubs. I got very involved in that, served as club president. I was on the board, a lot of things there. I'm still to this day on the board of a small pre-K daycare center, helping
Hmm.
them with getting grants and things like that. So I thought, "Oh, yeah, that'd be kind of a cool thing to do." And then when I looked at nonprofits and thought about what they do and how they engage their constituents, which again, constituent engagement is what I've been doing my entire career. I realized for them, direct mail was still really important. So even though I hadn't really been doing much of it for years, I recognized if I kind of put those two together, a skill set in direct mail and focusing on the vertical of nonprofit, that could be something that would resonate with people and be able to help me begin to generate a new book of business and basically, turn the page and start another career. So that's how I ended up doing it.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Now, I know it's nonprofits, and I'm pretty sure it's throughout the entire United States. Is it a specific ones that you're targeting, or tell us a little bit about the framework of what that ideal client looks like for you?
Well, it doesn't really have to be.
Okay.
I go after how I address their challenges is very different depending on whether the organization has a national footprint or a community focused one. Because, if you're a disease research foundation, chances are the people you're going to help could be anywhere. So it's not specific to a particular metro area. Whereas, I have no doubt in, the Atlanta area, in Georgia, where you are, there is undoubtedly something called, the Atlanta Food Bank or
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. And
Mm-hmm.
they have to focus their attention much more on direct community outreach, um, highly targeted advertising in terms of geography. So sort of, different approaches in terms of how you figure out who to target and how you find the people who are most likely to be able to not just provide donations, but in some cases you're looking to identify the people you can serve, which
Mm-hmm.
is why I always like to use the word constituents, because if you're a nonprofit, it's not just about donors. It's about finding future donors. It's about your program recipients, your volunteers, your board. So you have to take a look at which are the key aspects, the key elements of the different organizations. But short answer is, hey, as long as they've got, I'd say an operating budget of at least $2 million, that's a bit arbitrary, but an organization needs to have some staff, some bandwidth, and some funds to be able to engage with somebody like myself on the outside.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for painting that picture for us. Now, we are big
Sure thing.
networkers. That's how we have gotten to know each other. And as I'm out and about, I'm going to be looking for that target client for you, but it's a higher probability I come across a referral partner. Can you share with us some of the referral partners you've come across that helped you with opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. As is in the case with lots of industries, My focus may be on fundraising or more specifically, say, direct mail. But there's plenty of other service providers who bring value to nonprofits. So they could be fractional HR and benefits organizations or, fractional CFOs, things of that nature. The other folks who service organizations can tend to be really good referral partners. Frankly, anybody who's on the board of of a nonprofit can be a good referral partner.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, as the audience is listening to the show, if you come across any of these people that are a good referral for Phil, please keep him in mind. Now, Phil, you've had extensive time in your field as far as with marketing that you gravitated towards, and I'm very confident that there are some skills that you have acquired and nurtured over time that you could share with the audience that they can use in their bag. Can you share some of those with us, please?
Oh yeah, for sure. I always like to sort of start a conversation about this with, what is it at the core that I do? And that is, it's marketing. And what is marketing all about? It's about engagement. Whatever it is you do, whether you're trying to generate new leads for your solopreneur business, or you're trying to sell a pair of shoes, or you're an attorney looking for clients, you have to find ways to make people aware of what it is you have to offer, and then find ways to engage them. Because quite often you're not going to be able to get them to transact with you immediately. Because, in a lot of cases, it's like, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to just call up and say, "Hey, I'm going to buy this from you," or, I want you to be
Mm-hmm.
my new accountant. So a lot of what I do is how do you go about doing that? And like for-profit marketers, whether you're looking for donors or you're looking for buyers, there's a process you go through where you take people along what we used to call the path to purchase, excuse me, where first you make people aware of what you are. That's sort of the whole branding thing that goes on, and then over time, if you can get them to take small steps to engage with you, like sign up for a newsletter. If you're a nonprofit, maybe get them to attend an open house where they can get to know you better, and vice versa. And then eventually, maybe you mail them a solicitation, an invitation, or you run some digital ads to you encourage them to actually purchase something specific.
Yes, yes. So to the audience, listen, you got to engage who you're trying to get in contact with. Unfortunately, it just won't come to you. You got to go get it. So please keep that message in mind. And thank you so much for sharing that with us, Phil. Now, listen, we've talked a lot about business in this podcast today, and we understand we want to try to have some sort of work life balance. We know it won't always be equal, but let's just say you have served all the nonprofits with their marketing material and you can take a few minutes to yourself. What is it that Phil would do with that time on his hands?
Well, I've been practicing for it this summer. After a number of years kicking off with COVID, which sort of shut down opportunities for travel. My
Mm-hmm.
wife and I had the opportunity to spend a week in Ireland earlier this summer, and then most recently in France. And aside from the challenge of making sure you don't wear yourself down too fast because there's too much to do in too little time,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so interesting to just, see and meet people from other experiences, see how other cultures address the kinds of things we do every day. And then there's just, scenic beauty and history. I love the US, but our history is limited because it only goes back to 1776. You go over to Europe or, I suppose the Middle East and Africa, you can see things that go back hundreds, thousands of years. And it's awe-inspiring. I guess that's the best way to put it. So I'll definitely be doing more of that as I try to develop uh, more of an automatic feed to my pipeline of business, and
Yes.
try to, spend more time on, making sure I'm getting some of that travel in, exercise, all that good stuff that we need to do to, stay vital.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Phil, how can the people get in contact with you if they have that nonprofit that needs your help or just heard some of those skills that you shared today? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Oh, I'd be happy to tell you that. And if I hadn't mentioned it before, I mean, the people most relevant for using my services are going to be executive director slash CEOs, marketing communication director, chief development officer, and they can reach me through my website, which is uh, my website address, uh, pmgmktsolutions.com, or through email at phil@pmgmktsolutions.com, or my cell phone, area code 203-543-5039. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Um, and perhaps bouncing around networking groups like the one through which I met you.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Please reach out to Phil. He is a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you coming on to the show today. And as always, we honor our guests by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and share something good with the people.
I will. I didn't want to wear out my brain too hard, but one floated to the top. If you're familiar with Freakonomics, the guy who basically invented that, his name is Stephen Dubner. He has a podcast which I listen to fairly regularly, and I love the way he closes his podcast. He says every week, uh, take care of yourself, and if you can, take care of somebody else too. And I love that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I usually sign off in another way, but I'm going to leave it right there, Phil. Thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure.
Excellent. And to the audience, be kind. Thanks.